to go live than it is to like record through YouTube because I don't have much memory on my phone. So, needless to say, I actually want to talk a little bit about vulnerability and shame because um, it's something that is super helpful and important. Um, and the leading expert on this is Brene Brown, and I've read all of her books except for her latest one. And really, the concept is that shame is something that is it's it's like it's a feeling of we feel flawed, we feel like there's something wrong with us, and it is how does she phrase it? That because we are flawed or because we've made a mistake, that we are unworthy of love and belonging. And so, what ends up happening is that when we feel like we're not good enough, it's usually characterized by thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'm not blank enough, experienced enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not, good looking enough, whatever it is, we're not enough in some way, we're flawed. And thus not worthy of love and belonging. Like people won't relate to us, people won't enjoy us, people won't like us, and we're very human beings are very connected, connection driven. So we like that connection. We strive for it. It's part of our DNA. It's part of who we are as a people in terms of it's like caveman days or hunter and gatherer days. Like people survived in groups, and so we really crave that connection with other people to survive in this world. So that being said, it's like to be vulnerable, to share ourselves, share about ourselves is a very hard thing to do for people to do. And Brene Brown talks about courage as, sharing your whole self, sharing the truth of your whole self. Um, and I really like that. I really like the idea of vulnerability. I really like the idea of that those who truly are courageous are those that share the truth about themselves, about their hardships, about what's going on. So I only share this because I had a vulnerable moment, and it was really interesting because so I was asked to give a talk for a bunch of youth in our stake, and as I was preparing for this talk, I thought to myself, it was I was supposed to be talking to like meekness. Walk in the meekness of my spirit was the theme that I was given. And, as much as there's all this stuff about meekness, like I kept going back just about to my own struggles as a youth in high school. Like I had a lot going on. Like 10 years ago today, I was a senior in high school. I was, choir president. I was doing show choir. I was doing tennis. My peers on my soccer team wanted me to do and be on the varsity soccer team with soccer to be, the goalie. And, um, I found out that if I got an A in my AP classes, then I'd be able to get a 4.0, and I knew that that was very important to my mom, very important to, getting a scholarship, and um, also I was thinking about going on a mission for the church, and so it's just like all these stuff was going on, and I was pretty overwhelmed, and I was just telling the youth this story about how I was not only was just overwhelmed with that, but I also felt unworthy. And it was because like when I was, 11, 12 years old, you know, I discovered this like the pleasurable feeling of masturbation. And like I didn't really know, it was, the thing is like in our church, for those of you who aren't members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, like we don't believe that masturbation is something that we should do because you think about how God has the commandment that we should not kill, right? And he also has the commandment that we should not commit adultery. And these things, these commandments are there because he really wants to protect life and it um, really values our lives, our mortal bodies. And so to take someone's body, to kill it, that's a big sin. Thou shalt not murder, right? That's a big no-no, right? And another big sin is, don't fornicate, don't commit adultery, don't you know, create life outside of marriage because doing And we see this all across the world. Doing so creates a family environment where a child is raised with only one parent, or where a children is raised not in the best circumstance, not in the best loving family, mother, father, experience. And so, needless to say, um, I shared about how I had struggled with that, and I shared about how I struggled. There were times where I got involved in pornography. It's like, every 3 months or 4 months, it's like I found myself in a low place, and that was a struggle. And so, and it's super taboo to talk about this stuff. Like super taboo to talk about masturbation, pornography within the church because um, there's so much talk about how it's bad and how it's not good and how it's something that we shouldn't even talk about, in that you are letting poison into your soul and into your family, and you're the most horrible human being. And that's how I felt. Like, I felt pretty horrible. And those thoughts of I'm not good enough, I'm not doing a good job, it's like I can't believe I've made the mistake, like those thoughts generate a feeling of shame. And what shame does, literally, it causes us to hide. Like, that's the action, is you hide. You go underneath a rock. You do not tell anybody that you've made a mistake. That's what shame does. That's what the feeling of shame does. So if you find yourself hiding from the world in any way, shape, or form, you know that you're feeling shame, because that's one of the character. That's like one of the telltale signs of someone in shame. And so I was in shame. Like, I didn't tell anybody, like nobody, and because I didn't tell anybody, and this is the thing that Brene Brown kind of researches, that when we talk about those things that we struggle with, when we talk through it, when we talk to a bishop or whatever, you know, it actually helps us to get over it. It actually helps us to move forward. And I was telling the youth in my talk, I was telling them, I was like, okay, complete this sentence, like, if I don't read my scriptures, then what do I make that mean about me? If I, look at pornography, if I don't love going to church, what does that mean about me? Like, what do I think? Then what? And for me, it's like, I think a lot of times, if I'm not perfect, then I'm not good enough. I'm not who I need to be. And that thought, just like I'm not good enough, brings about the shame, brings about other negative feelings, and then we act by hiding. We don't, we aren't as capable of overcoming, and thus the result is we still believe that we're not good enough. We prove to ourselves that we're not good enough. And so I challenged them. I said, hey, what would Christ think about? It's like, what would Christ want you to think about yourself? And it's like, just sit with that question. Like, what would Christ want you to think about yourself? Because it's not going to be, you're not good enough. It's not going to be, you're dumb. It's not going to be, I can't believe you're that horrible. It's not going to be anything like that. Christ brings love. He brings forgiveness. He brings strength, enabling power, um, capabilities. It's like, it's like, when I answer that question for me, it's like, what would Christ want me to think about myself? He don't want me to think it's okay. It's like, you can overcome this. You're amazing. I love you. Like, those are the thoughts that you would bring. And when I think that way, I'm going to be much more capable of actually overcoming the mistake. And honestly, it's like, that is where we need to go. That's where we need to get to, is to the point where we recognize that, hey, stop beating ourselves up about life, about anything wrong that goes on, and start choosing to recognize that no matter, no matter what we do, we are loved, and that we are always worthy of love. And it's like, as much as we might say, oh, that's really touchy-feely or whatever, it's like, that is science. Like, science is like, show us, like, seriously, you are going to do so much more good in this world if you feel loved, if you feel the feeling of love rather than feeling shame. Like, the only reason why I was able to speak about my my past and the hardships without, like, I wasn't that nervous. I wasn't as nervous. And it was crazy because I was sitting there and, you know, I was just like, oh man, I'm really gonna talk about this. I've never shared this kind of stuff, and here I am sharing it on YouTube, right? I've never really shared about this stuff, and there's all these youth, people that I know. Oh man, there's adults here too, and oh my goodness, like they're from my ward, they're from my church. All these adults, like, they know me, they know me, they know me. Oh, what's the stake president gonna say? What are the leaders gonna think? Now that they're all gonna know that I've had this dark past or whatever. It's like we think about it like that, and it's like I had some of these, a few of these thoughts. And I'm just like, oh no, should I? Yeah, it's like I don't have anything else planned. It's like this is what I'm gonna talk about, but I kept coming back to these thoughts of, it's like, you know what? At the end of the day, at the end of the day, all their opinions don't really matter. At the end of the day, it's like I know that I'm loved. It's like I'm still a child of God, and that's okay. And like, no matter what anyone does, like I'm still worthy of all the love that there is. No one can change that for you, for anybody else. And that thought sustained me. Like that thought enabled me to go up to that podium, speak the truth from my heart, and be courageous in expressing something that's so taboo in our church, and change lives. You know, that afterwards people are giving me hugs and saying thank you and all this stuff. And it's just like, the more we start sharing openly and willing, the more that we are really contributing to this world, because there are people out there with problems that are similar, that are hard, that need to hear that kind of stuff. So, anyways, there I am sharing it with the world, being vulnerable. And the more vulnerable you are, the more you are willing to share the truth about your life and about your experiences, the more good, I think that just the more good you'll be able to do. So, checking out tonight, and we will see you later. Bye.